Have you noticed how strange things are getting now? How we have all these disclosures coming forth about satanic paedophile rings. And we even have the President of the United States stating that he's going to push for the release of files on aliens and UFOs. Have you felt the weird feeling in the air that something's about to go down? Well, I think there might be a very good reason behind all of this. And it's only going to get crazier from here on out. For some reason, 2027 is a very big year for all of these New Agers, channelers, even people in the government like CIA and military officials, etc. And why is that? Why is it 2027 of all years that seems to be the culmination of AI, aliens, and every single conspiracy you could possibly imagine? And everything seems to center around a great solar flash that will take us back to the golden age. But why 2027? Well, when Jesus went into the desert to stand in Adam's place and resist the temptations from Satan, it had been 4,000 years exactly since the fall in the Garden of Eden. If 27 AD was 4,000 years exactly since the fall at the Garden of Eden, then that would make next year, 2027, 6,000 years exactly since the fall at the Garden of Eden. So, what exactly does this mean? Well, we know that 6,000 years ago, Adam and Eve were tempted and deceived. And this is what caused the fall in the Garden of Eden. And then, 4,000 years later, in 27 AD, Satan tries to deceive Jesus, who came to redeem us. It was said that humanity's redemption would take 6,000 years after the fall in the Garden of Eden. And so, we are now on the eve of our redemption as a species. And so what will Satan do again? He will try to deceive us and tempt us, taking us back to that moment in the Garden of Eden one last time over the span of 7 years. And this is known as the tribulation period, which I believe will start sometime this year and then end in 2033 with the return of Jesus Christ, exactly 2,000 years after his death and resurrection, making everything come full circle. These final 7 years will be the most deceptive in all of history. Satan is going to pull every trick he's ever used on us, chuck it all at us in one go. This is Satan's final blowout, and he knows humanity very well. He's had thousands of years to plan for this, and his plan seems to be working, since everyone is under the assumption that Satan's final shot is a one-world government system with AI, transhumanism, like some sort of a dystopia, and that the Antichrist will be some kind of worldly dictator or politician. And I'm going to show you that this is not at all his final shot, and that what is actually coming is far more deceptive. To know what kind of deceptions are coming, we must look into our ancient history and in the Bible to see what kind of deceptions he has used in the past, because ultimately the deceptions he will use on the world will just be those deceptions repackaged. In our ancient past, there was a time known as the Golden Age. This was the era of the lost city of Atlantis, when gods and demigods walked among us. There were superheroes. We had great technological advancements and vast amounts of knowledge about reality. And there were flying palaces called Vimanas in our skies. No man knew old age or decay. There was world peace and abundance. We had free energy. We could move massive objects with just our voices. This was an era of fantastical creatures, magic, giants, and so much more. We were essentially like gods. And then it all ended. We were thrown into a dark age, into the evil matrix. The gods left, the mythological creatures were gone, and now it was the age of man. Old age and decay returned, and the magic was gone, and we were no longer gods. We became beings of limitation, and we needed to use tools and machines rather than magic. And over time, we forgot, and this great golden age became myth and legend, and we see it depicted in our movies, TV shows, and video games today. And that is how someone of a Luciferian mindset views the days of Noah, the days before the flood. You see, to be a Luciferian, it doesn't mean you have to be a psychopath or kill children or be a pedophile or rapist or eat babies as shown in the Epstein files. It's actually far more simple than that. To be of a Luciferian mindset, all you need is a big ego and a lot of pride and a wish to exalt yourself as a god. And people with this mindset are the kinds of people that see this age as some kind of long-lost golden age and are awaiting its return. According to Noah and Enoch, who were not of a Luciferian mindset but were very loyal to the one true God, their stories differ very much so from those told by other cultures across the world about the events that took place during this supposed golden age. And we come to understand why God flooded the earth and who these so-called gods really were. Long ago, in our ancient past, Satan convinced a third of the angels in heaven to turn against God, and they were all cast down to earth. The fallen angels became what we know across the world as various different gods, and they mated with various human women to create the Nephilim giants, also known across the world as demigods. They sought to completely corrupt all of God's creation, and so they gave us everything we could possibly want. This was a world without boundaries or rules, a world where everyone had ultimate power and everything they could possibly want, a world without God, and therefore a world full of sin, unrestrained, a world of pure hedonism where evolution was halted and humanity reached complete stagnation. And by the days of Noah, all flesh was corrupted on the earth, not just humans, but animals, the plant genomes, everything, the entire planet. According to many accounts across the world, there are absolute abominations made during this time period. Because humans still had their sinful nature with all of this freedom, they started to break boundaries in reality and create abominations and blaspheme God. They would think of themselves as gods, and they would start to create the most vile things, and they would do the most vile things. Across the world, we see these abominations. Animal-human hybrids, human-animal hybrids, and various other creatures that we just can't comprehend. Humans with ultimate freedom and without God leads to complete depravity. We find God through hardship, and hardship is what ultimately causes us to evolve, both spiritually and physically. Without hardship, we don't learn. We don't have a guilty conscience when we do something bad. And in this world that has fallen into sin, a guilty conscience is like our compass to heaven. Without hardship, God's creation could not thrive, and with ultimate freedom, with sin still in their hearts, they themselves became abominations. A world with ultimate freedom without hardship or evolution. A world without God is a world that ultimately leads to destruction and extinction. And Satan knew this. He didn't have to conquer the earth through force. All he had to do was give humanity everything they could possibly want and leave the rest to us. And God looked upon his creation in shame. He had regretted creating humanity. That's how bad things got. And so he sent the flood. But there's a whole other component to this ungodly golden age. You see, to corrupt an entire planet, this takes more than fallen angels creating Nephilim and crazy experiments creating mutants. This was a world without boundaries or rules. But what exactly does this mean? Essentially, reality was hacked. Think of it like a video game where you are supposed to level up through struggles, but you reach the highest level straight away. This is what happened worldwide. Evolution was essentially fast-forwarded to a point because of a certain power source. Every ancient culture describes this power source. It was like Earth was essentially plugged into something for a time, giving people free energy, magical powers, all the knowledge they could possibly want, and kept everyone young. This power source gave everyone everything, and I mean everything they could possibly want. And it changed the entire planet. The Earth did not look how it looks now. The sky was different. The plants were different. Everything was different. The whole Earth corrupted. No one knew worry during these times when the Earth had a different sky. There is a certain sun god spoken of all across the world. And as strange as it may seem, early astronomical traditions identify the primeval sun as the planet Saturn, the distant planet which the alchemists called the best sun, and which the Babylonians, the founders of astronomy, identified as the exemplary light of heaven, the sun god Shamash. And Shamash is the planet Saturn, according to the astronomical texts. In the ancient planetary system, they only knew of 4: Earth, Mars, Venus, and Saturn. First would have been Saturn as the larger object, with Venus in front of it, and then Mars in front of Venus. All 3 of these celestial bodies together formed the Golden Age Sun. The Popol Vuh, lauded as the Mayan Bible, attests to the same idea, that there was a previous sun that was in our sky during a golden age full of abundance. Natives of Mexico recall that prior to the present age, an exemplary sun ruled the world. But this was not the sun of today. His name was Quetzalcoatl. The Maya maintained essentially the same idea, calling the primeval sun god Huracan. The Incas of Peru spoke of a former sun, superior to the present sun. To the ancient Egyptians, the sun god Ra reigned over a fortunate era for a time, then retired from the world. The Sumerian An was the central luminary of the sky, and later parted to a more remote domain. In archaic copies of Plato's Timaeus, the word for the planet Saturn is Helios, the sun god. Popular Greek traditions identified Saturn as Kronos, the alter ego of Helios. This is just like how Saturn has alter egos. One is Capricorn, the materialistic and restrictive goat, and the other Aquarius, which is the spiritualist that pours out divine knowledge and abundance, very similar to the alter egos of Satan, who is pictured as a goat, and Lucifer, who is pictured as an angel of light. One restricts and the other gives abundance. In Hinduism, this time period is known as the Satya Yuga, when the Earth is closest to the great star, and it is when we're closest to this great star the gods walk among us, and there are giants and magical creatures, and there is no hardship at all. The Romans called this the Golden Age of Saturn. After their conquest of Greece, they associated Saturn with Kronos, This was a time where everyone was equal. Nobody had to work for anything. People could do whatever they wanted. There were no laws. We also see, in many depictions, a pillar coming down from the Saturn, Venus, and Mars configuration. And this sun pillar is the key to everything. In fact, this is probably why many cultures make pillars for their gods in the first place. So, what was this pillar? Electric universe theory proposes that the universe is electrical in its nature, that electromagnetism is the dominant force shaping the universe, rather than gravity. If the universe is electric in nature, which I believe it is, then this would explain many things, but it especially explains this whole Golden Age event. If the universe is electrical, then the 4 planets being close together like this would have caused an electrical current to form, connecting from pole to pole on each planet, causing a fusion between them. Saturn would have been the conductor, drawing energy from our actual sun, which would have been behind it, with Venus and Mars acting as electrical nodes, with the current finally reaching the Earth. Even today, Saturn is emitting more energy than it receives from the sun. So Saturn, being this close, would have supercharged the Earth, Venus, Mars, and us. We are electromagnetic beings. With the Earth's electromagnetic field fully charged like this, there would be no old age or decay, and there really would be no boundaries or rules. The entire Earth would have been plasmified. Evolution would have been sped up physically, but spiritually, we would have still been the same, meaning whilst we had our physical evolution fast forwarded, spiritually we were still corrupt. Due to the highly electrified and plasmified environment, matter would have been more moldable and easier to manipulate. Things wouldn't have been so strictly solid. The laws of physics we have now would have been essentially non-existent. We would have been able to interact with reality via electrical pulses from our brains, which emit their own electromagnetic fields. Our electrical brains would interact with the electrical reality all around us, allowing us to manipulate matter and have instant manifestation of pretty much anything. We could rearrange atoms with just our thoughts. This truly would have been a world without laws or boundaries. This also explains why advanced ancient structures are built on ley lines with highly conductible materials, and also why they look like massive computer chips. This plasma current would have touched down in our old North Pole, where these ley lines converge. Ley lines are all over the world, and they would have been completely lit up everywhere. But more importantly, this highly electrified Earth was perfect for the fallen angels to roam upon. The fallen angels are energetic in nature. It is my theory that they are actually made of the 4th state of matter, which is plasma. Just like stars, which angels are often called, plasma also makes up 99% of the observable universe. It's how they're able to change form and aren't as restricted by solid matter like we are. However, to be somewhere for a long period of time, they need an environment similar to the heavenly realm they were banished from. So they essentially energetically terraformed the Earth, not only to give us all the power we could want so that we would destroy ourselves due to still being spiritually corrupted, but also so they could walk amongst us as our gods. Just as angels were called stars, fallen angels were called fallen stars. The Book of Enoch calls the angels watchers. They were to watch and never interfere. In ancient times, they called planets wandering stars, like the wandering watcher angels who ditched their posts and became fallen. It is my theory that angels aren't just made of the same matter as stars, but they actually are the stars in some way. Fallen stars is what I interpret planets to be. Planets are stars that are solidified due to their corrupted nature, becoming a lower form of matter. I think, just as we have ultimate authority over the earth and have a symbiotic relationship with it, fallen angels maybe either are these planets or were given ultimate authority over them and have a symbiotic relationship with them. They're like the fallen angels' living spaces or thrones. Either these fallen angels are an extension of these celestial bodies, or the celestial bodies are an extension of the fallen angels. I think it all works kinda like Ego, the living planet, in Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. They still have their humanoid forms, but they can connect to the planet they're associated with like a mech suit and become one with the planet or star as an extension of themselves. Ego in the Marvel universe also takes human form and mates with a human female to create a demigod to make the universe into an extension of himself. He is also called Ego simply because he has a massive ego, just like Satan. This seems like a direct retelling of what happened with the fallen angels. Stars or worlds taking human form to create demigods that will create for them, since fallen angels cannot create. Only humans and God can create. Fallen angels can only twist and corrupt what's already been made. And so, this whole alignment is far more than just some accidental freak of nature in this context. And this is a great example of the term as above, so below. Just as the fallen angels, in their humanoid forms, were mating with human women to hack the human genome, these great celestial bodies, which are extensions of the fallen angels, were essentially mating with Mother Earth, hacking into its DNA, right down to the atomic level. This is an image of ion collisions captured by BNL's star detector, and this is an image of the ancient Saturn, Venus, and Mars alignment that was used by the fallen angels and their leader, Satan, to hack into the Earth's DNA. Ion collisions are interactions between charged particles, atoms, or heavy nuclei as they pass near each other, often used in physics to study extreme matter states, such as higher states of plasma, and in high energy cases, creating new particles. So isn't it interesting how this ancient alignment looks almost exactly the same? Another example of as above, so below. Just as charged particles or atoms form this shape when passing near each other to create higher energy states or new particles, the planets are just larger charged up particles or atoms, forming the celestial alignment which Satan and the fallen angels used to create their own version of reality separate from God. By giving humans the means, the knowledge, and tools to do so, they required humans to create for them, as they do not have this ability. A whole new heaven and a new form of creation. An ion is an electrically charged atom, and planets are essentially giant atoms. So, with a charge from Saturn, which is the most electrically active planet in our solar system, they too would become giant ions. And when ions come close together, they create higher states of matter and new particles. So this specific alignment would have done that on a much larger and cosmic scale. And so it stands to reason that this kind of alignment could warp or even create new realities. This was essentially a reality manipulation machine, with fallen angels as the managers and humans as the operators. And it seems they are trying to recreate this on a much smaller scale at Saturn. So whilst the fallen angels needed this high energy environment to keep their power, there was probably much more going on with this alignment than just that, something absolutely cosmic. Of course, this ancient alignment that formed this sun pillar was used for more than just supercharging the Earth or being a reality machine. It was also used for interplanetary travel, or as it was called back then, realm travel. This plasma current is what the various depictions of a world tree or mountain connecting to other realms is. We see this in Norse and Native American traditions, and in ancient Greece, it's represented as a mountain. In Hinduism, specifically in the Satya Yuga Golden Age, when Earth is closest to the Great Star, you are able to travel to other lokas physically using Mount Meru, a mountain shaped like a pillar connecting Earth to other worlds. Ancient texts suggest aircraft called vimanas were used to travel to these other worlds. The texts say these Vimanas used a propulsion system based on gyroscopes, mercury, and electricity to gain flight. This kind of propulsion system would have been perfect for surfing this electrical current connecting to the other worlds and moons. It also would have been perfect to gain flight on a planet that is highly electromagnetically supercharged. As the laws of physics would have been different, a highly electrified environment would have enabled something with this propulsion system to achieve anti-gravity, similar to the UFOs we see today. These other worlds or realms would have included Mars, Venus, probably some moons, and then Saturn at the top, also known as Asgard in Norse, Olympus in ancient Greece, or Satyaloka in Hinduism, the realm of the gods, who are the fallen angels. Many scientists have said Mars and Venus would have once been habitable, not even too long ago. Also, interestingly, both Mars and Venus have shown signs of microbial life, suggesting there used to be life on both planets. And if these ancient legends are to be believed, then these two worlds, plus Saturn and some moons, all hosted life of different kinds and sizes, the majority of which were probably corrupted creations of the fallen angels and Nephilim. When you look at the realm tree in Norse mythology, we see where Niflheim is placed would have been where Mars was. This realm was known as a realm of primordial ice and cold, where the frost giants resided, which is what I think the origins of the Yeti or Bigfoot possibly is. A lot of ice has been discovered on Mars, so this is quite interesting. Where Venus is would have been Elfheim, which is depicted as a place of incredible light, beauty, magic, and lush environments, and was home to the Light Elves, which match the descriptions of Nordic or Pleiadian entities in modern UFO encounters who say they are aliens living within Venus. This is also interesting because in the Mars, Venus, and Saturn alignment in ancient depictions, Venus is the one that makes the star shape or eight-spoked wheel due to its intense brightness. Even today, it is the brightest object in the night sky after the moon, often appearing brighter than any actual star, just like how Elfheim in Norse is the brightest realm of them all, which coincidentally is right where Venus would have been in this ancient alignment. And of course, Saturn would be Asgard, the city of the gods. This explains not only the bacteria being found, but also the ancient structures that are said to be on Mars. We used to travel to and from these worlds and their moons using the celestial tree. This video has already gone on for a very long time. I could talk for hours and hours about how Saturn is still the ruler of this world and how its symbolism is absolutely everywhere, and how that connects to Satan being the prince of this world and Saturn being Satan and things of that sort. But I'm not sure people would want to watch a 3-hour video on this whole topic. And so I will just add this in to this video and leave it at that so we can move on to the more important things. It is said by many cultures that when this Golden Age sun was moved to a more distinct location, the Great Flood came. Of course, you can only explain such an event as being an act of God. That's why scientists scoff at the whole thing. And yet, the ancient texts all say that it happened. Earth, Mars, Venus, and Saturn all separated. There's even much evidence that Mars experienced a great flood, and it's clear that this event left the surfaces of Mars and Venus completely destroyed. But the twisted creations and fallen angels survived this event, just as Noah and his family did. The fallen angels who committed the worst crimes were thrown into the abyss prison, and the worst of the Nephilim were disembodied. It is these disembodied spirits of the Nephilim that are responsible for what we call demons today, but the rest survived on their own ark along with various other things. In Christianity, it is Noah and his family that survived. In other mythologies, the bloodlines of the gods and demigods survived, along with the creatures created during this time. Just as God had his ark with his pure creations and bloodlines, The false gods and their leader Satan had their ark with all their corrupted creations and bloodlines. And so the battle continues today between creation and corruption. We still see these creations all over the world after the flood. We have the more animalistic types, like dragons, or what we today know of as dinosaurs. This is why we see living dinosaurs depicted in ancient carvings, way past the time archaeologists have said they existed. And of course, these creatures are now one of the main arguments against there being a god, and are supposedly the proof that the Bible is false, just as the aliens will be. And then we have the hairy men, and dogmen, and things of that sort. These today are known as cryptids. And then we have the more influential types, known today as aliens from faraway worlds. But back then, they were known as gnomes or dwarves, which are the engineers or builders, or Tuatha De Danann, or undines or fey people. They use their deceptive beauty to draw people into their traps. And then we have the tricksters, which are the leprechauns, the sylphs. These are the masters of illusions and tricks. And we have the evil serpent race, known as the salamanders, or Chitauri. They feed off of fire energy, things such as anger, hatred, fear. In our ancient history, and in the Bible, these entities were known as the elementals, of which there are many different categories for each elemental force, but they all follow the basic same description of their purposes and what they look like. These entities are all a different kind of Nephilim. Nephilim is a very broad term. Its actual translation just means fallen ones, as in fallen creations. Just as we were made in God's image to be a representation of Him, many of these entities were made for the same reason, to be representations of various different fallen angels and their demigod children. These ungodly creations were made to represent their rebellion against God and rebellion against all of creation itself. They are the images of the fallen angels. The demigod Nephilim were born from human women, giving them authority over the earth, and because they were of direct fallen angel lineage, these were royalty. Some may have looked like a mix between an animal due to the fact angels can become these various different animals, but for the most part these demigods had very human personalities due to being part human and part fallen angel, and being conceived via natural processes. But there were the other more monstrous looking Nephilim, and to my understanding, these were not created by natural means. These were artificial in nature. These artificial avatars or sleeves were possibly made for demigods that were killed in battle, as they could only be born once, and so once that body had died, they would require a new body, since they were only immortal and not invincible. It is my belief that every time they died, they would need a new body to inhabit, with each body becoming more and more corrupted, because each time they died, their spirit would become more corrupted, meaning they would need a body to match with that impurity, either because it was necessary, or it was just what they wanted to look like due to their corrupted nature. The more they died and reincarnated, the more psychotic and less human they became, and this would have been very much reflected in their image. Disembodied Nephilim cannot inhabit a body with a full connection to God and creation, not without permission, but a body that's artificial and an abomination to creation they could inhabit. These ancient Nephilim demigods may have looked like us at one time, just a bit bigger and with superpowers, and maybe some animalistic features, but some, or many of them, over time became complete abominations. Many may very well have become what we see with cryptids, and even giant kaiju monsters, which we know many gods and demigods made. But the story does not end there. The Bible does not just talk about a few demigods becoming corrupted. It says all flesh was corrupted. This seems to suggest that in one way or another, everyone had become Nephilim, some kind of new species that was no longer in the image of God. I believe these were either genetic experiments that had somehow overtaken the human gene pool, or there were humans that were born human but decided to leave behind the image of God and become something that they saw as more superior. This, I believe, is what we see with the elementals. Why is it that these so-called aliens just look like us with an animal skin, or like what animals or insects would look like if they evolved into humanoids? We have the Mothman, we have the reptilians, the mantis entities, dogmen, Bigfoot, and even the Greys have been described as being amphibious. Why is it always just animals, but if they evolved to be like us? Because it was actually the other way around. They didn't become us, we became them. The Bible highlights that all of humanity had become so corrupted that God had to destroy them. This seems to suggest that Noah and his family were the only humans left, the only people that were still in the image of God. People were no longer human. Humans contain DNA from all living organisms. It's highly possible that various different animal genes within our DNA were simply switched on, causing a mutation to take place, turning them into what we now call aliens, becoming an entirely new and unnatural species, willingly becoming Nephilim, completely disregarding the image that God made us in, and instead becoming an image of the fallen angels' rebellion against creation. If there is an anti-Holy Trinity in the form of Satan, the false prophet, and the Antichrist, then these entities are what I would call the anti-humans. They are our direct opposites. Satan has a counterfeit for everything, even humanity. We see all across the world various different cultures dressing up as images of their gods, or even demons as a form of worship. This was the same thing, except people did not dress up. They actually became the images. These were the people that were extremely loyal to the demigods and fallen angels, and therefore they would take on their image. And it would have been seen as an honor or an upgrade. This would have been seen as ascension. It is my belief that various different species represent different ranks. All of these entities are simply humans that became new images, and as soon as they became new images, new unnatural life forms, their connection to God was cut off, meaning there was no path for redemption or eternal life, and they are now slaves to the fallen angels and Satan. These are the humans that fully walked away from God in every sense of that phrase. What we are dealing with are not things that were born alien, but they are in fact former humans. In this world ran by Satan, anything that is in the image of God is considered a lower life form, and therefore these various ex-humans that have become these alien-looking creatures are considered a higher life form in Satan's hierarchy of beings, with humans being the lowest. However, whilst these entities are considered higher than humans due to the fact that they are not in God's image, they are still on the lower end of Satan's hierarchy due to the fact that they are just mutated humans or genetic experiments and are not demigods. What we are to God is what these entities are to Satan and the fallen angels. They are simply servants and foot soldiers Of course, if these are images of the fallen angels, then it stands to reason that there must be fallen angels that also look this way. And I believe these are the ones that many people see that are in charge, whether these are ancient, mutated humans, avatars, or even fallen angels themselves. One thing I think we can all agree on is that these are servants of Satan. But it is my theory that these entities are some form of twisted genetic experiment, whether they be mutated humans or something else. They are everything but the image of God, which in Satan's world is viewed as a higher life form of higher status. And this is the exact propaganda that New Age and Hollywood is pushing, that these insults to creation are somehow higher life forms, and that we should look up to them and want to be like them, that they are more godly or more holy than us, and that humans, being in the image of God, basically suck, that humans are the corrupted creations, and these entities are more pure, that these unnatural genetic experiments are somehow natural, and that in this narrative, humans are the unnatural genetic experiments. You will see they are glorified everywhere you look, as if to suggest we should want to become their image. We should want to be them. We should ditch the image of God and take on theirs, because this is the world we live in. In this world, anything other than the image of God is superior and an upgrade. And yet, the fallen angels could only create such things by twisting, corrupting, or mixing God's images, because they cannot create anything new. I call all of these entities, whether we are talking about the demigods, avatars, or mutations, unnatural biological entities, or UBEs for short. In other words, fallen creations, Nephilim. Their main purpose is the same, to be an image of the fallen angels' rebellion against God. This ultimately means to carry out the fallen angels' will, which, at its core, is to make humanity lose faith in God. All of them do it in different ways, but their goal is always the same: draw humanity away from God. All of these insults to creation are a tool for Satan to disprove God and the Bible and make us lose faith. They all ultimately fall under the same false god, Satan. Cloned bodies do not last in the current environment we live in, because they are unnatural and not a part of God's order, and therefore are not connected to God. And it works the same way with these various different entities. They are all evil in their own ways. They represent different aspects of evil, as evil is a lack of God, just as darkness is a lack of light, and cold is a lack of heat. Evil is a lack of God, and these entities do not have souls or a connection with God. Therefore, they cannot survive through hardship or harsh environments. They cannot handle low energy conditions like we can, due to their lack of connection to God, as it is God that gives us and the animal kingdom the ability to survive in these harsher conditions. We can survive on an extremely low battery level, whereas these entities require a much higher battery level. These entities are not natural, and therefore they are left wide open to disease and death, unless in an environment that does not have such things, just like the Golden Age, whereas our source of life is God, granting us an immune system and a way of living in harsher conditions. These various different entities can only rely solely on the environment. They were created in an environment that was highly electrically charged, and so this is the baseline for their survival. They need this kind of environment to survive. It is essentially what they are made of and what their DNA knows, and we even see evidence of this throughout history. These entities disappeared for a long time, right until the 1500s, when we started seeing records of them again, all at once. We had this event in Nuremberg, which is depicting some kind of solar event with UFOs all over the sky. Around the same time, we start to see these records and paintings of Bigfoot type creatures, dogmen, and dinosaurs, or as they were called back then, dragons. And then, in the 1800s, we had the Carrington solar flash, and what followed? Strange airships, and again, cryptids. In the 1940s, we see them show up again, UFOs and cryptids, right at the time we were starting to mess with nuclear bombs, which when set off, emit a highly electromagnetic charge. We even see these UFOs appear at a nuclear test. Of course, after this, cryptid sightings were rampant, and so were UFO sightings. This is also when the alien abductions started, and things did not stop. Things only got weirder from there. And this is because not only do we have satellites orbiting the planet, covering almost every corner, that emit their own electromagnetic fields, we also have our own gadgets now that emit their own electromagnetic fields. Almost every single person has one, and so we started off with the very physical nuts and bolts Vimana type crafts and these greys, and then what's followed not too long ago, more than likely because of our highly electrical environment, was the plasma balls of light that can shapeshift and are being compared to angels, as they are supposedly alive. It seems the more charged the Earth becomes, the more that follows. And even with our current highly electrified environment, they can only stick around for short periods of time. This is why we hear many military insiders speak about when they've captured these so-called aliens, they get sick and die within just a couple of hours. However, we still see these entities interacting with humanity after the flood. This is because when Earth was disconnected from the Saturn sun, the charge didn't just completely deplete then and there. It stayed around for a while, and this is why we see people in the Bible are able to live to around 900 years old, even after the flood. It's like when a phone is fully charged. When you unplug it, the charge doesn't go straight away. It depletes over time. This is why, when you look at the evolution of everything has gotten smaller and weaker. Everything is devolving due to the lack of electromagnetic charge, not evolving. Not only has the Earth been depleting, but everything on it. And so this is why, after the flood, these unnatural biological entities seem to disappear in waves. First, were the massive kaiju monsters, and make no mistake, these things absolutely existed. There's even accounts of such things in the Bible, such as the Leviathan and the Behemoth. Things like this were basically pets to the fallen angels and the demigods. Due to their intense size, they required a lot of energy. We even see in various forms of entertainment that giant monsters like this do not consume solid matter, but instead require high amounts of different forms of energy. And I believe this is exactly how it worked in the real world. And so, these kaiju entities would have had to leave first, along with the fallen angels, who weren't thrown into the abyss prison, followed by the demigods. However, some of these Nephilim demigods would stay, but become weaker and weaker and more human over time. They became mortal and susceptible to old age, which is where most of the bloodlines that rule the world today come from. And the last to leave were the elementals and cryptid type creatures. They would dwell on the surface for a time. They would pass on the false knowledge to various different cultures, like the knowledge passed on to mystery schools that would then go on to be passed down through generations, that would one day reach the entire world and lead them to the doctrines of demons. But after some time, when the energy was depleting more and more, they also had to leave and go within the earth, because all of these entities of different shapes and sizes, all require different amounts of electromagnetic charge. Almost all ancient texts describe these mythical creatures, gods or kings, going within the earth to some kind of mythical kingdom, awaiting their return at the end of this dark age to usher in a golden age. Le Tuatha De Danann disappeared within the earth to a place they called the Otherworld, described as a magical place of eternal youth and beauty, where various ancient kings and gods rule. In Arthurian legends, it's a mythical realm called Avalon, said to be a magical paradise where men are immortal, where King Arthur rests, awaiting to return to Britain in a time of great need and usher in a golden age. In Greek mythology, it is Hyperborea, associated with the Greek god Apollo. Apollo was believed to spend the Dark Age in the land of Hyperborea, during which time he was absent from the world, causing coldness or darkness. He was prophesied to return to the world at the beginning of a golden age. The inhabitants, known as the Hyperboreans, are believed to live in a state of perpetual sunshine, happiness, and extraordinary longevity, often described as having an existence free from sickness, war, and old age. There are also said to be kings in Hyperborea, up to 10 feet tall. In the occult, this place is called Agartha. Agartha is an immense legendary kingdom that is said to be located on the inner surface of the earth, sometimes involving a king of the world or multiple kings who are said to rule Agartha and secretly influence the events of the surface world. Agartha is described as a lush subterranean world with its own inner sun, providing light and energy to its inhabitants, who never see old age or sickness. It is said to be inhabited by multiple different races, including the various alien species we see today. It is also said to be home to the ancient Atlanteans and various other empires that vanished. It's even said to be home to extinct species such as dinosaurs. Admiral Byrd actually went to Agartha in the 40s.
August 1946. Esteemed U.S. naval officer and explorer Admiral Richard Byrd, one of the first pilots to fly over both the North and South Poles, organizes Operation High Jump, the largest expedition ever to travel to Antarctica.
His squadron flew under the Earth, into the Earth.
It turns into this lush and green area, and he can't even believe his eyes. But that's just the beginning of his extraordinary story. He tells how all of a sudden he starts to see a shimmering rainbow city that's made of crystal. His airplane is taken control of when he suddenly sees these flying disc-shaped objects around him that lead him to the ground. Whereupon he's escorted into a cavernous type of an area where he meets a being he refers to as the Master in his diary.
Interestingly, Luciferian Alice Bailey said the ending of this dark age would be brought about by the Ascended Masters, who are being overseen by Sanat Kumara, the Lord of the World, which is the same title Satan is given in the Bible, and Sanat is an anagram of Satan. And so I believe that this entity that calls itself Master or King of the World is the same one overseeing the Ascended Masters to bring about the end of this dark age. Which brings us to the mythical kingdom of Shambhala in Tibetan Buddhism and also in Hinduism, located within the earth, where various divine kings are said to rule and influence events on the surface world. This is where Kalki is prophesied to come out of, riding a white horse to destroy corruption and end the materialistic age, ushering in the return of the Satya Yuga Golden Age. He will be followed by the Maitreya Buddha, who will teach the world the forgotten ancient divine knowledge. All descriptions of this mythical place within the earth almost completely match the descriptions of what the surface world was like in the ancient Golden Age. This Golden Age of sin did not end, it just went deeper within the earth, waiting to return to the surface. This is because, as the energy of the earth depletes, it sinks lower and lower into the Earth. As I mentioned earlier in the video, planets are essentially giant atoms. Atoms have different layers with different energy levels surrounding the nucleus, which is the center of an atom. It works the same way with the Earth. The core of the Earth is the nucleus, which is where the charge is highest, with different layers of the Earth having different energy levels. The further you get from the core or nucleus, the weaker the energy becomes. And so, this particular map that shows up across the world, depicting an island at the center of the world, like Hyperborea, for example, is not on the surface world. What they are depicting is a 2D diagram of a 3D object. So this island that's being depicted in this context is actually at the center within the Earth rather than the center of the surface world. Atlantis in this case, with its depictions of rings, with the center being where the gods lived, could in fact actually be global rather than just a large island. Hence why it was called an empire. And the rings represent different layers of the Earth, with the center of the city being the center of the Earth, which is where the gods and demigods live. We hear all the time about how Atlantis sank, and now that makes a lot more sense. Atlantis isn't dead. Just like the Golden Age, it went deeper into the Earth. In other words, it sank. The inhabitants simply retreated to the city center, which is located within the Earth. The 10 demigod Nephilim kings of Atlantis were not kings spread across an island, they were kings spread across the world. We see the same shape on these fairy mounds left by the gods of the Celts across Ireland and the UK. And these are not just simple mounds, they are directions. They are showing us where the gods went, with these different layers of the Earth having different energy levels, just like an atom. Different levels of the Earth in this case would contain different entities. Closer to the core, you would have the giants, the absolute titans, things like kaiju and Lovecraftian eldritch horrors, more than likely hibernating and soaking up the energy, just like we see in all those giant monster movies, where the giant titans are usually hibernating within the Earth, soaking up geothermal energy. The environment of the inner surface of the Earth gets more highly charged the further down you go. So it stands to reason that the further into the Earth you go, the more incomprehensible and large things get. So, closer to the surface, you would have the elementals, or what people now call aliens, and also the cryptids. And I'd imagine the demigods and the fallen angel gods would be much closer to the core. Not only because they require more energy, but because in their counterfeit heavenly system, they are higher in the divine order, whereas the real heaven is in our sky, the counterfeit is within the Earth. Of course, this same thing applies to Venus and Mars as well. This is why various ancient texts describe some gods and entities staying and others going off-world into the heavens before the flood came, before the celestial tree was disconnected. Many probably went to Saturn, the realm of the gods, which is coincidentally one of the most electrical planets in the entire solar system, and then others, more than likely, went to Mars and Venus and are living close to their cores where the charge is highest. And of course, this is why in the 50s we had these light elf looking so-called aliens saying that they came from within Venus. And then we have the obsession with Mars and Martians and things of that sort, which I do not believe came from nowhere. And then of course, there is the obvious Saturn worship almost everywhere in our society. And perhaps that has something to do with the fact that that is the realm of the gods. In this video, I have shown you what I believe to be the true history of this planet. My reasoning behind this is because the future truly is in our past, and it is now all coming full circle. Because as you've seen in this video, Satan's kingdom does not look like this, like some kind of dystopia. It's actually quite the opposite. And so, here I present to you Satan's true final kingdom.
we're literally like magicians almost. We could create, we could move things with our voice and our sound. We're like a divine being of the universe. The Nag Hammadi scriptures, the secret book of John, it talks about how Enlil became jealous over how perfect man was, and then deliberately threw him into, that's what it says, threw him into a lower form of existence to trap him. So we were created by powerful fractals of source that are like omnipotent creator gods, right? And amongst them, we were created in such perfection that we were more wise and potentially more powerful than even they are. And because of jealousy by the gods, specifically Enlil, he creates an entire world and hides us in a veil to lock us in an eternity to never remember who we really are.
Yeshua was his name. What he was teaching was so profound for his time. There were outer teachings and inner teachings. The outer teachings were for the masses, and it's primarily what you see in the Gospels. The inner teachings were for those initiates that could really understand what it was he was saying, and that's what the Gospel of Thomas appears to be. It did come from a later time. I don't think it invalidates that what it is that is being said in there.
What is being said that's so controversial?
Well, there's 114 sayings in there, but the bottom line, and this is one I think that is probably one of the most well-known, where he says, what you bring forth from within you will save you, and what you don't bring forth from within you will destroy you. He's saying there's a power inside of us that has to be expressed. And these texts are all about how we awaken that power. Okay, so the name, I'm going to use a word and then I'll define it. The name that is given to that power traditionally is called divinity. We were imbued with a force that was greater even than those who created us. And there has been an effort from that time to deny us that force. The purpose of evil, and this might be the most important thing that we say today, because it's a nebulous concept, good and evil, until you give it a benchmark. The purpose of evil is to deny human divinity.
There's no way this is just pure coincidence that every movie is a fight against perfection and against...
And a creator, and it's like, how many times does this particular scenario end up?
And it's more concerning, why are people spending money to watch it? Because that's why they keep doing it. If it didn't work, they wouldn't do it. It wouldn't sell.
And we're always rooting for the bad guy, essentially.
Yeah.
But Satan likes it when people believes he doesn't exist. Like, so he uses that as a weapon or as a way to deceive.
Yep.
He's taking it to another level now. Yeah. Wow. He's no longer trying to make people think he doesn't exist. He's trying to make them think he's the good guy. And this takes us to Marvel and everything else.
This is all coming together. Right now, we're seeing that the heroes always have something in common with Satan, and the villains always have more in common with God.
People in the Epstein files aren't Satanists. What if they're Christians? And I guess more accurately, what I'm saying is that all roots of this darkness is stemmed from the Abrahamic system. And this is the system that birthed patriarchy, took us away from our natural state of being and connection. And it is why this system of violence has been able to exist and thrive and continue to work.
You guys still aren't getting it. Christian men use the blood of Jesus and innocent people, like babies, to cover their sins. That's the whole religion.
The type of men who wrote the Bible are the exact same type of men that are in the Epstein files right now. You need a minute to process that? If you can't see the parallel of the Bible and what is going on in our world right now, are you good?
I would want the world to know about ascension. I would want the world to know that we are very, very close. And all the people on the inside know this. This is the key of disclosure. We are very close to some sort of energetic shift the sun is going to do. There have already been multiple experiments, I've heard this from several insiders, in which they take ordinary folks and they put them into a room and they zap them with the energy that our sun is going to give off when we go through this change. Become very blissed out. They start to get really telepathic. They can move things with their mind. Everybody kind of goes into a psychedelic trip. Our government knows that this is going to happen.
And the prophecy is there's a new human emerging, around this time, particularly beginning in the year 2027 or around then.
She came into my body and then channeled through me for 6 hours straight. The angels were very clear. It's a solar flash of light. It comes from a sun.
But not from our sun.
They
right?
said our sun, but I don't know if it means the sun in our galaxy or the sun, like if it's like the great central sun. I don't know which sun. They haven't said. They just said it's the same sun that we are from. And so, and I know, and that's a whole nother story about my experience with the mother of creation and a son, which is like, that's a whole story, which is awesome. But, it's a solar energy. And they did clarify just recently that it will come when we are ready for it. We create the new earth. In the new state of consciousness, we will learn as manifestors.
The Arcturians have said many times, there is going to be this shift, as I see it, that is coming. Living energetics are now becoming a possibility for humanity. If you work in a realm of living energetics where the actual fields and the forms within the fields morph and change to your intention and request, now you are living in a completely different paradigm.
Hi, my name's Allison Coe. I'm coming to you from Portland, Oregon. I'm a hypnotist here in Portland. I like to report on trends that I see in my session. One of those things from the past was the fact that there seemed to be this event that would come, hitting the earth, like a blast of energy that hits the earth. Now, the newest trend that's been coming through is the importance of inner earth and how that relates to a new earth and the shift in consciousness.
Actually, that's going to include the galactic beings, it's going to include the inner earth beings, it's going to include the sea beings, it's going to include all forms of life within this one consciousness, of which we are one divine fractal.
These beautiful beings in the inner, and they really are looking to connect with Earth, and they're waiting. There's this real excitement that I get the feel of they're looking to connect with the surface population.
So Kalki is to come to end the age. They said Kalki will come on a white horse.
Prophecies recorded in Tibetan lore speak of a coming age when the world will fall into chaos, when greed and ignorance will shroud the earth like smoke, prompting Shambhala to emerge once more.
The most captivating aspect of Shambhala is the prophecy of the Kalki avatar, the final incarnation of the Hindu god Vishnu, who will emerge from Shambhala to restore balance in the world. As darkness envelopes the earth, this warrior of light will lead the forces of good against evil, bringing about a new era of peace.
And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him, the white horse, he went forth conquering and to conquer. This individual here is the Antichrist.
One of the main reasons I have made this video is because I've noticed many people, especially Christians, attributing the Antichrist to being some mere mortal man, and that the final kingdom of the Antichrist will be of men in suits. But this will not be the case. The 10 kings are the same as these divine kings spoken of within the earth, the very same 10 kings that ruled the world when the empire of Atlantis was on the surface, the same ones that stepped out of the UFO at Holloman Air Force Base in the 50s. These are pure-blooded Nephilim that have been ruling the world from behind the scenes all of this time. This is why the Bible is very specific about the fact that these are not kings in the way that we know of. These are the true rulers of the world who will more than likely be reintroduced as ancient ascended masters that have been guiding humanity towards ascension all of this time. The Antichrist and false prophet are more than likely also pure-blooded Nephilim, or even themselves fallen angels. The 10 kings, the Antichrist, and the false prophet are not men. The Antichrist and false prophet are thrown straight into the lake of fire which means they skip all throne judgments. These are the only two beings in all of creation that skip the throne judgments. Even Satan and the worst of the fallen angels will face the throne judgments. And so this tells me that the Antichrist and false prophet are almost certainly not human. The final revived empire is also not going to be Rome, which was made by men to imitate the first and original empire, which was Atlantis. Atlantis has been the blueprint for every empire. Every empire has been a mere shadow of Atlantis, a poor imitation. If the statue revealed in Daniel 2 is the physical representation of the body of these empires, Atlantis is the soul of these empires. It is the foundation on which these empires were built upon, and so it is fitting that this final revived empire is at the foundation of the statue, which I believe will be Atlantis, the foundation on which all other empires were built upon, and it will rise from within the foundations of the earth. This whole inner earth civilization is Atlantis, including the unnatural biological entities, the demigod kings, the fallen angels, the UFOs, all of it is Atlantis, and by extension, the Golden Age, or the days of Noah. And it's all coming back right when this solar flash event happens, which is supposedly coming from our old sun, according to many channelers. And in the movie Interstellar, it is our old sun that holds the key to humanity evolving into 5D beings, ascending into gods. In almost all media in which the storyline is to do with ascending or breaking out of a simulation, you will always find Saturn or its symbolism, because in one way or another, Saturn is Satan, and all of these stories contain the same false promise from the Garden of Eden that through Satan we can become gods. And if that wasn't enough, this great energetic shift is linked with the age of Aquarius, and Saturn rules Aquarius. So, this golden age of Aquarius that's coming is basically the golden age of Saturn. In some way, the false sun will have a part to play in this great energetic shift and the end times. This energetic event is what is needed to bring back the golden age of Satan. As I have pointed out in this video, whether it be the unnatural biological entities, or fallen angels, they all need a highly charged environment to exist. Therefore, this energetic shift is what is required for the final 3.5 years to take place. This event will be very disorientating, and it will feel like Armageddon, due to the fact it will be complete madness from all angles. There will be UFO crafts all over the skies, as many channelers and psychics have seen, and also thousands of people, including myself, have seen this in dreams. The entire thing will seem apocalyptic and divine in nature, and this is why it will feel like Armageddon, and many will mistake what comes next as Christ's millennial reign, because everything will feel amazing. You will feel the best you have ever felt, and this is what people need to understand. The Antichrist kingdom is not a dystopia, but a utopia. What we are seeing set up now, the dystopia everyone is mistaking to be the Antichrist system, is the finalization of Babylon, the corrupt and materialistic kingdom of men, which the Antichrist and the 10 kings destroyed at the midpoint of the tribulation. This Babylon dystopia will be framed as heavily Christian, so that people will see the evil and corruption that takes place, and Christianity as one entity. People will not differentiate evil and the Bible. To many, these will become one. We are already seeing this with the war in Iran. Alongside this villainization of Christianity and God, we are also seeing people view the days of Noah as an ancient lost golden age. To these Luciferians, this was their Garden of Eden, not when sin fell upon the planet, but the day the flood came and we stopped being able to sin unrestrained, the day we stopped being gods. And so, with this ancient golden age of sin making a full comeback, to them, this is the redemption of humanity. This 5D ascension new earth, this is their grand return, adopting the same mindset as the ancient mystery schools and modern day secret societies, that the main goal of humanity is not to overcome sin and find our way back to God, but to transcend the need for God, to transcend physical boundaries and become superhuman, to become gods and be able to sin unrestrained. These new ages have adopted the very same mindset of the people they claim to be against, and anyone threatening this grand return to humanity's natural state in their eyes will need to be eliminated. All of this talk of ascension, awakening, and superpowers is just the apple in the Garden of Eden repackaged. Behind it all is the same false promise that man is God. If the end goal is to turn humanity into Superman, then in other words, the end goal is to turn humanity into Nephilim, which is what Superman and all other superheroes are based on. The Nephilim are the blueprint for superhumans. In the Marvel Universe, there are a group of entities called the Celestials. Included in this group is Ego, the living planet, who are used as an example earlier in the video. The Celestials sound awfully familiar when you hear their backstory. There was a being called the First Firmament, the one true God of the universe, and was the universe itself. He was lonely, and so created some kids. Some of them were loyal and followed every wish of their creator, and these were called the aspirants. And then there were those that rebelled against the creator, and these were called the Celestials. These two groups ended up in a battle, and in the Marvel universe, the Celestials won, destroying and shattering the First Firmament, or what in our universe is known as God, splitting the one universe, the one creation, into many, creating the multiverse. Killing God is what enabled the multiverse to take place. Killing God gave them the creative essence to make multiple universes in their own image. The Marvel Universe is essentially the alternate universe where Satan and the fallen angels won in their war against God. The Celestials also created a group of beings called the Eternals, which in our world is Nephilim. The story goes the exact same way. The Eternals are a mix between Celestials and humans, giving them superpowers. Eternals guide humanity from behind the scenes to achieve the ultimate end goal, known as the Emergence, which is the exact same story being told about these so-called aliens and inner Earth beings. They're here as guides to help with our ascension, our emergence. In the comic series Earth X, every single human has superpowers. All humans have essentially become Eternals, or in our universe, Nephilim. It is revealed that the reasoning behind making all humans into superhumans was in preparation to protect Earth against a great cosmic threat that all of humanity would need to fight as a collective, or else the Earth would be lost forever. Celestials, or in our universe, fallen angels, experimented on early humans, implanting a latent gene designed to eventually turn the entire population into superheroes to protect the Earth from this great cosmic threat. These genes would lie dormant in all humans until the release of this mist into the atmosphere, which activates humanity's dormant superhuman DNA as this cosmic destroyer approaches to prepare them for this great cosmic battle to protect the Earth. This sounds awfully familiar. The mist being released into the atmosphere sounds like this plasma apocalypse, solar flash type event, the trigger for humanity becoming Superman, or it is at least some kind of requirement. I believe that the apple from the Garden of Eden is still within us all. The apple is this dormant DNA within us, and this DNA has either been a part of us since the days of Noah, or it was actually added to our DNA in the Garden of Eden the moment Adam and Eve bit the apple. And the reason everyone became Nephilim in the days of Noah, as I suggested earlier in the video, is because they simply had that dormant DNA activated. The reason fallen angels were able to make babies in the first place was because our DNA was already made compatible with these entities via the apple. When Adam and Eve ate the apple, it changed our DNA, and the apple never left. It has been dormant, waiting for the key to activate it once again, just like in the days of Noah. All of us, with our DNA fully unlocked, become Nephilim. Perhaps the plasma apocalypse event is only part of the puzzle, and the real superpowers come when everyone takes the mark. The mark is what amplifies these mutations, a sort of key to fully unlock them, to prepare us for war against God. The secret society knowledge is going to be released on purpose. All of this is a trap to trick people into becoming Nephilim, into ditching the image of God, and instead becoming an image of Satan. People, in one way or another, whether it is ascension or transhumanism, want to escape the image of God and transcend it. And I believe the mark of the beast will give us exactly that. People that take the mark will no longer be human, and people that are human or still in the image of God will be considered lower life forms. To be in the image of God during these coming times, you will be considered junk. The mark of the beast is being pushed as some kind of AI chip that inhibits our godly abilities, but the true mark of the beast will do the complete opposite, and this is why people will fall for it, because a sinful heart wants nothing more than to be God. We are getting a counterfeit Antichrist and counterfeit mark of the beast in the form of Babylon. Babylon's version of the mark is an inhibitor, and Babylon's version of the Antichrist is a dictator, but the true Antichrist and true mark of the beast will not be such things. Babylon's ultimate design is to restrict humanity.
You want this?
To beat humanity down.
You really thought you could stop me? You worthless, weak little nothing. Come out and fight! Or are you too scared? Just what I thought.
The star!
No, that's mine!
Whereas the Antichrist kingdom will be the complete opposite.
Nothing can hurt us as long as we're together.
The Antichrist kingdom will lift humans up to great heights. And make them feel unstoppable. It will exalt humanity to the point where they feel like gods. True Antichrist will be a servant to humanity, and the true mark of the beast will not be an inhibitor. It will be a catalyst or an activator of our dormant godly abilities. The true mark of the beast will not be seen as unnatural, but it will be seen as returning us to our supposed natural state of being, according to these Luciferians. Satan is going to give all of humanity with their sinful nature, a world they will want to defend from Jesus Christ. Jesus clearly said he's coming to destroy the world, not give it a cute little upgrade. He also said his kingdom will not be of this world. Do you know what that means? It cannot be imagined by anyone currently alive. All of these utopias you've seen in the movies, that is what Satan's final kingdom will look like. Things imagined by men. I've highlighted how God is being painted as Satan, and in this twisted point of view, that makes Satan God, because whether these people want to admit it or not, they are Satanists. Everyone has been made to think Satanism is something extreme, like killing children, or rituals, or things of that sort. But what Satanism really is, at its core, is what we are seeing with New Age. It is adopting the same mindset as Satan, that you are divine, and therefore you are God. We are heading for the full inversion. God will be Satan. Satan will be God. Christians will be Satanists. Satanists will be holy. Angels will be demons. Demons will be angels. The image of God will be inferior, and the image of Satan will be superior. Hell will be above, and heaven will be below, where Jesus Christ will come from the sky. The Antichrist will come from below. The Antichrist will be seen as Jesus Christ. The Antichrist will save us from the sin outside of ourselves, but not the sin inside of ourselves. Bad will become good, and good will become bad. Unfortunately, many will be convinced that when this energetic event happens, that will be the end of the events in Revelation, that the tribulation has ended or been avoided completely, when in fact this will be the beginning of the final 3.5 years known as the Great Tribulation. The first half is all humans. It'll be things like World War III and Babylon, dystopian type stuff, with perhaps a reveal behind the curtain of who's controlling these men sometime before the midpoint. Some evil reptilians or grey aliens who serve the evil god of the Bible. At least that is what New Agers like David Icke and many others suggest. Just like we are getting the dark Antichrist system in the form of Babylon, perhaps we will also get the so-called evil aliens be revealed. Everything about Babylon will have some kind of Christian framework, so everyone associates the dark days with Christianity. And make no mistake, this will also include the so-called evil aliens who will be framed as working for the God of the Bible. And then this great big apocalyptic-like event will take place, this sort of plasma apocalypse, or solar flash, or some kind of electromagnetic energetic shift, and this, by many, will be seen as victory. To most, it will seem like we've finally beaten the biggest threat to humanity. It will seem like humanity has finally gotten its happily ever after. But in reality, this is the beginning of the final 3.5 years of the tribulation, and the greatest threat would have just emerged, and so many will be worshipping humanity's greatest threat, because so many people do not know who Satan truly is, or who God truly is. Satan is not a devil. Satan is an angel that tells you God is the devil. Satan and all things associated with him do not look evil, or even act evil in the way we've been conditioned to see evil. The tribulation is said to be the most deceptive time in all of history, which is certainly correct, but I would also call it the most tempting time in all of history. We will all be tempted in our own ways, just like Jesus was in the desert, and only through our faith in Jesus Christ will we be able to resist the temptations that come our way, especially with how great Satan is going to make the world and everyone feel. It's what Satan is good at. Satan exalts. He doesn't tear down. He doesn't have the authority to do so. Before Satan fell, he was in the immediate presence of God. His main role was to exalt God. It's how he caused others to fall, including us. He uses his tactics of exalting to cause other angels to fall and humanity. Exaltation is pretty much his only trick, but it is one he uses time and time again, just repackaged for a new generation. This is why he is seen as the god of this world. He is the one that makes you feel exalted. He makes you feel like the main character and like a god, but only Jesus Christ can save you. However, this world doesn't believe it needs a savior. Instead, people believe they need exalting. People believe they need to be God.
There is not going to be a second coming of Christ.
There is no guy going to appear on a cloud to judge the human race or change the world.
The Christians think they're going to see a Messiah come in the clouds, which is ridiculous. We have to stop looking for an external Messiah. What's going to save us is us. I've seen the Messiah, and the Messiah is us.
Very good.
And so they will always look to Satan, whether knowingly or unknowingly. Satan is the one that gives us an overabundance to the point of destruction. And then when God takes it away, he points and says, "Look, it's the devil. Run." This is the truth of Satan and God. If you want to know who Satan is, look at who is celebrated as a hero in this world. And if you want to know who God is, look at who is seen as the villain in this world. Humans with their sinful hearts who have not accepted Jesus Christ and been born again will always, in one way or another, love Satan and hate God. We are heading into a world where God will be the ultimate villain and Satan will be the ultimate hero who gives us everything we want, even if it'll kill us. The true love that God gives is beyond just giving us everything we want. It's far deeper than that. God's love saves us in ways we cannot even comprehend. It doesn't look like giving us everything we want and ultimate freedom with no rules or boundaries. Everything God does is for the good of humanity, but everything Satan does, including exalting or giving everyone everything they want, is only for the downfall of humanity. And yet, everyone would rather look to the one that corrupts than the one who saves, because Satan knows he can't force people into hell with him, so he makes attractive the road that leads there. Exaltation is not what is going to save us from what is coming, no matter how special or godly you think you are. AI and men in suits are not our biggest threat, but the one who exalts us and tells us we are special, that we are the Most High, that is our greatest threat, because we cannot save ourselves from what is coming. We will not only be dealing with unnatural biological entities and fallen angels, but also literal primordial horrors from the dawn of creation. It says in scripture, people will be dying from fear due to the things coming onto the earth. We are going to be seeing and dealing with things like the giant kaiju monsters we see in the movies, the ancient great ones, and also things that are right now incomprehensible to us, things so terrifying we've never even dared to imagine them. These giant monsters are coming back, the ancient great ones, which have been hibernating within the earth, awaiting these final years, when the earth will return to its ancient golden age conditions. All things hidden shall rise from within the earth. Atlantis with its ancient technology, the ancient fallen angel, false gods, and various unnatural biological entities, including the ancient Nephilim demigods. We are not just metaphorically going back to the days of Noah, we are literally going back to the days of Noah in every single sense of that phrase. Everything is going to come full circle. All of it is coming back. Everything I have spoken about in this video, all of it is coming back. No amount of exaltation or love and light will save you from this. Not from the temptation, the deception, the terror, or death. But you know what can? Jesus Christ. This is why Satan has very cleverly made almost everyone feel like they are the main character, like they are the god in their story. Because no matter how much you are exalted, no matter if you have superpowers or a body made of steel, if you do not know Jesus Christ during this tribulation period, you will be absolutely powerless in the face of the horrors and challenges that will be unleashed upon the earth. The days of dealing with men are over. Your ego or love and light will not save you from these ancient otherworldly forces of evil. We need something from beyond this world to save us. Something far stronger and more powerful than us. Someone who's come face to face with the things we considered unbeatable, and one whose name instills fear into the most intimidating and terrifying beings. We need Jesus Christ.